Right. Oh. Yeah, 14:01. Yeah. Clock's still slow again, everyone. Right. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Hub meeting. Thank you for lots of members in the audience this afternoon. Welcome to our newest recruit. Not sure how long he's staying. A week or a day? A week. Right. I'll be expecting Lisa's in soon then. Right. So, welcome. I hope we don't bore you too much, young man, with where we're going. So, right. Mr. White, apologies for absence, please.
Thank you, Leader. Good afternoon, members. We've got no apologies for this afternoon's meeting. Thank you.
Does that mean we're all here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Full house. Right. So, items, declarations for interest. Does anybody have any? No? If anybody thinks of anything, please shout as we come along. Item 3, items requiring urgent attention. I've not been made aware of any. Chief Exec, Mr. White.
That's correct, Leader. We've got no urgent items today. Thank you.
Good. Right. Confirmation of the minutes, pages 1 to 6 of your agenda. These minutes, I think, have been through full council, haven't they? Not yet. No. Okay. The minutes held on the 10th of June 2025. So pages 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right, I'm happy to propose those. Seconder, please.
Happy to second, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Renders. Any discussion, debate? No. All those in favour, please.
Thank you. That's carried for the minutes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm not aware of any public questions. Is anyone else aware of any?
There are no public questions, Leader.
Good. Right. Well, not good. It'd be nice to have one occasionally. The Hub Committee Forward Plan, pages 7 to 12. So, we have quite a bit that we're going to get ticked off this afternoon. And then we're going to go to September, where it's a lot of budgetary items. Councillor Edmonds is going to be very busy, along with the finance team. Yes, looking forward to it. That's good. That's what we like to hear. Leisure. Ooh, that's a new one. Tree and Woodland Plan. That looks good. More finance. No. Oh, Tree and Woodlands, November. A bit longer to wait. Is that for real, that it's the only thing on the agenda for November? Right. Does anyone have any comments? Does anyone need anything moving or anything like that? No? Right. Okay. So we'll move on from there. So page 13 is item 7, Plymouth and South Devon Community Forest Plan, with the lead member, Councillor West, and Mr. Sakula. Good grief. That was very fast. Right, I will leave you both to go through the...
Thank you, Chair. This has been brought forward to Hub because we've reached a point whereby we need to reassess the plan and plan forward as a result of a requirement by DEFRA, who help support this. The Plymouth and South Devon Community Forest Plan, or PSDCFP, it's an interesting acronym that, is something which I'm very, very excited about because it gives us an opportunity without any necessary statutory requirements to help and work within our community and across South Devon and Plymouth. And as you'll see later, I'm sure Rob will pull that out, Mr. Sakula will put that out, he's actually proposed to expand it, which would be good because if we're, one of my interests is around corridors for wildlife and that, and this will obviously provide a good vehicle for that. With the South Devon Community Forest is a partnership between Dartmoor National Park Authority, Devon County Council, the National Trust, Plymouth City Council, South Hams, the Woodland Trust and ourselves. The initial target is to deliver up to 250 hectares of woodland creation with an ambition to plant 500 hectares by 2025. I'm particularly interested in this because now in my role I'm now on the Tamar National Landscape, and I think this links in very well with that, and it provides that sort of synergy to be able to pull these areas together. I'm going to be quiet now and let Rob sort of carry on and give us hopefully a little bit more detail to it.
Good afternoon, members. So the community forest in Plymouth is one of the more recent ones. Have I muted myself?
No, you need to bring it a bit more forward towards you. The computer blocks it out.
Super, thanks. We're one of the newest community forests in Plymouth, and it's been quite an ambitious start to the programme. What this plan does is articulate the vision really and the direction of travel for the community forest moving forward. So it's had a very successful start. It's delivering hundreds of hectares of woodland creation, but it can go further, and it can go further both in terms of quantity of woodland but also geographically. So one of the things that's been picked out in terms of the critical things the plan is doing is to clarify the boundaries. So the boundaries grown a couple of times before, reflecting the demand, I think, for woodland creation. But it's been a little bit mucky, and it's had a halo around the boundary. So it's been a little bit unclear, perhaps, exactly what the offer is and exactly where the offer applies. So one of the things that this plan will do is tidy that up in terms of West Devon. That essentially pushes the boundary up to the A30, so everything south of the A30 is eligible, including Dartmoor. In general terms, it's a non-statutory plan. It's one that DEFRA require us to sign off effectively, but really what it's going to do is act as an ongoing lever for the community forest to continue to draw in more funds. So they've got funding, I think, for another year. They've put in a bid to Trees for Climate 2, and this plan, along with the success to date, should act as a very good lever to secure that ongoing funding from DEFRA. So I would hope it's quite an easy one for us to support. It's already been delivering great things. It will continue to deliver more, and in due course, as the councillor said earlier, we will be bringing a report back to Hub Committee which can outline how hopefully we can capitalise ourselves a little bit more on the offer from the community forest. So we have had a little bit of money from them previously, but undoubtedly we could go further if we have the ambition. So we will bring that report back in due course, in November apparently.
Apparently, yes. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. It does actually support our plan on the ongoing delivery support for climate and biodiversity. So it's a key part of our strategy going forward and the council plan. As Mr. Sekula said, it's non-statutory. There is no money investment from us necessarily, but it will provide potential financial support for processes we've got going on, such as the two regeneration sites we've got within West Devon around Yelverton. And that, I think it is something which can develop, and I think it is something we should get on board with as a way of actually engaging the community more with biodiversity and climate throughout the area. So the recommendation, Chair, if I may, is that the Hub Committee adopt the Plymouth and South Devon Community Forest Plan 2025 to 2050, as set out in Appendix 1. Mr. Sekula has sort of summarised the aims, vision, and that for Appendix 2, which gives a nice summary of what they're trying to do within the scheme. And you will find that on page 75 of the papers, which is worth a quick glance because it summarizes it quite nicely around that.
I'm happy to second for you, Councillor West. Does anyone have any questions, please? Councillor Jury, first of all.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor West. I've got 3 questions. I think you probably answered one of them already, that as I understand it, the funding for this is coming from DEFRA and there's no input from West Devon. Did you say at this stage, or?
I think it's a case of no, there's no requirement for us for funding. It's just an opportunity for us to gain funds to help support the work that we're doing around biodiversity and climate.
Okay, excellent, thank you. Secondly, we are, of course, a landowner in this area, and we do have some land that is set aside for rewilding. So one of the benefits of this, I think, is supporting landowners to bring woodlands into what they call informed management. What are the specific benefits to the council in terms of the land that we own? Is there anything specific, or?
So in terms of setting up the schemes, the natural regeneration schemes that we've got, it was originally funded through the community forest itself. So forgive me, I don't have the figures, but I think it was in the region of £50,000 that funded deer fencing and some ongoing maintenance. So the ongoing maintenance is low. Funnily enough, I was there this morning and it's working. The trees are coming up. So we've got about 150 trees at one of the sites already, just through regeneration. There are various requirements through the scheme, so we have to have, I think it's 200 trees by year 5, which we should hit easily. But there might be further opportunities, so it's too early for me to commit to anything yet, but I'm exploring opportunities in terms of habitat banking, so we can't use carbon credits at the site, but hopefully habitat banking in the future, and the habitat is developing in the sort of way we would want it to hopefully ultimately capitalise on that. In terms of the community forests on an ongoing basis for those sites, input will probably be limited, to be honest, but those sort of opportunities would exist for other people through the continuation of this scheme.
Thank you. That does kind of neatly bring me on to my third point, I think. There is an ambition, and I think it's a very lofty ambition and very good ambition of this project to spread the benefits of the community forest to every resident and as many organisations as possible. Is that already built into the plan in terms of activities that will take place, or will that be part of our, in West Devon, plan to work with them to deliver that objective in due course?
Well, yes. I mean, if the actual report goes into and tries to analyse I think it's the coverage or something like that. It's percentage coverage of tree and the benefits around that. So it goes into a lot of detail around that. And I think that, you know, it is something for us moving forward in terms of planning as we go to look at around the joint plan, and that is around the fact that can we put input into the planning whereby we're saying that any new housing or that could actually have trees and support trees being planted within those developments. I don't know if you want to extend anything else.
Yeah, I think one of the things that, I'm not sure it makes it unique, but one of the key factors in the community forest and the way it works is engagement with youth. So they have an arm within the community forest called Forest Rising, and they've got effectively a youth board comprising lots of young people picked from across Plymouth, South Devon, West Devon and Dartmoor that contribute on this board, come up with ideas about how they think they could better engage young people within woodlands. So that sort of chips in, if you like, to the direction of the community forest, and I think is reflected quite strongly in the plan. I think they've got more work to do on it, but undoubtedly that's embedded quite strongly, I think.
Councillor Elliott, please.
So I think this really builds on the question that Councillor Jury was asking. So I really welcome this. It seems like a fabulous initiative. But to what extent are we really going to embed this in work that we're already doing? It'd be lovely to hear about that either now or at a future hub meeting, because I'm aware that, you know, we've got things like the Wildlife Warden Scheme, we've got links with parish councils who might own small patches of land. And at the moment, I mean, it's great, but the title of it is a little bit off-putting because it sounds like it's quite Plymouth focused. And a lot of people will think of forests as being dense areas of tree. And so I think there's quite a piece of work that needs to be done in terms of communicating to the broader community and to groups out there like More Trees that are already very sort of pro woodland tree creation. So I suppose I'm just asking for us not just to adopt it passively, but can we show some signs of how it really integrates with what we've already got in place?
The great idea. I think more trees, as an example, are very much hooked into the community forest, and several projects they're working on are supported through the community forest. So I think it's well embedded, if you like, but undoubtedly we could go further. It supports all sorts of planting, so urban planting. I've looked at schemes in Tavistock before through the community forest, so there's all sorts of different types of projects it can support. But I think awareness raising is a good point, and I think they need to go a lot further. For example, with their website, they have rebranded recently, which they'll launch soon. So I think there's a lot of work still to be done there. Yeah.
I mean, the detail is there, and it doesn't talk about, as you said, when you hear the word forest, you're instantly thinking the whole of West Devon, and that's going to be totally reforested. You're not talking about that. It's providing trees within the urban environment, with the environment across West Devon, and there may be just one or two or a small clump or something like that. The idea is that the benefits, the health benefits, having a tree canopy, shade, for instance, in the weather conditions we've got, and the biodiversity that brings in is one of the elements of it. Now, I would hope with the tree plan we've got coming in November and that, we can begin to tie this together a little bit more. As I already suggested, I'd be very keen to talk to to work with Tamar Valley Landscape and see how we can link that together. For me, at the moment, I see West Devon as a bit of a patchwork. And for me, in terms of wildlife corridors, getting things moving, we need to fill in some of those gaps so the difference is not there. So that's something that we can hopefully have a conversation about and bring forward, and this gives us a bit of a vehicle to do that as well as support.
Thank you. Councillor Mott, and then I've got Councillor Daniel, Councillor Cheadle, Councillor Viney. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, and my apologies if my question gets a little bit garbled in amongst all the stuff that I'm about to come out with. I note on 4.1, it says that the forest plan does not seek to develop new land use policy. However, I'm sure we're all aware of the DEFRA consultation at the moment, which is proposing a reduction of 19% in agricultural land to be able to facilitate some of this land use policy change for forestry, woodland, etc. It's also interesting to note that you refer to it with regard to carbon credits and biodiversity net gain, when again the same government is also consulting about cutting out some of those requirements for smaller developments. So it'll be interesting to see how we manage to marry those conflicting views, particularly when we are all talking about how important trees are, but we are importing forest loads of the things from Latvia and other countries to feed our biomass burners for electricity production. So I'm just sensing a very strange conflict in all of these various policies where we're trying our utmost to be able to deliver these green initiatives. Yet on the other hand, it seems to fly in the face of other government proposals. So I guess really how do we see this fitting in with all of those proposals that DEFRA and the planning policies are proposing to bring in?
Well, from my point of view, Councillor, for me, it is about having an overview and trying to develop a strategy which fits in with it. I agree, national policy at the moment is a little counterintuitive to what we're trying to do. And, whether that's looking at, when we do the local plan, we put some conditions in around putting trees and that sort of thing within that urban environment. I share some of your concerns, having known that where I am within Borough and Yelton, there are whole fields or parts of fields being taken out, which is productive agricultural land. So there is this issue between the demands of feeding the nation, so to speak, and the need for trees and the benefits they bring. And inevitably, you're right, I think, Councillor Mott, in the sense it's got to be a balance and it's got to be right. And I think this is the ambition, isn't it, Mr. Sekula? This is what we'd like to see. However, I think you're right, in terms of that ambition, how that's going to look and how that's going to fit in, and what DEFRA are going to be saying to us in the future, is another matter, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think what I'm trying to express is frustration, if you like, that we seem to be 2 steps forward and very often 3 back in these things. But thank you.
Is there anyone else on the hub who would like to ask a question before I go to other members? No. Councillor Daniel, then, please.
Thank you, Chair. My question is very similar to Councillor Mott's, actually, really. It's about local land. I mean, across West Devon, there are lots of pieces of unadopted or unowned land, and I'm wondering if it would be possible through this forest scheme to get local communities or parish councils to adopt these so that we could increase our biodiversity with not a lot of expense, because if you leave them to rewild, then they become trees eventually, or help people to get access to free trees, as we've done before. And I think that might be a good way, rather than using farmland or whatever, to use those pieces of land, because I certainly know in my ward there are quite a few pieces that we have discussed at parish councils as to what we can do with them, and that seems to be an ideal solution, but it would need a bit of support from us or from the Plymouth Forest to help them to do that. Thank you.
Yes, I would wholeheartedly support what you're saying, Councillor Daniel, because inevitably we know there's little bits of land which are just there, and there is that natural regeneration out, but if we have opportunities to put trees within that, and we know the diversity that brings, that would be a good thing. I know within the scheme, there are opportunities there for people to get grants in terms of trees and that, and on the Rural Services Network magazine that's come out, there's a number of grants around tree planting and being able to go for those bids. So I think we are in a situation whereby, as has been suggested, that we need to be communicating and sharing this, and part of our role within this will be about moving this agenda forward, and that could be through communications, that sort of thing, to encourage people and parishes to do that. I know myself, in terms of my own parish councils, I will be looking to talk to them about these grants and what opportunities are there. We have a number of football pitches or the park, then there's no reason why trees cannot be planted around the house. I think that's the whole idea. It's just saying to people, look, these are the opportunities, which supports what you're saying, Councillor Daniels. We can do this, but I agree, in terms of what Councillor Mott was saying, are there opportunities there where we're not having to take so much agricultural land out of the system, and that agricultural land should not be good agricultural land necessarily, which I think is some of the guidelines around that. So yes, it is something that we could do and promote, I think, as an authority to support it. I don't know if you want to add anything to that, Mr. Skipper. I bored them anyway, but...
Councillor Cheadle, please.
Thank you, Leader. My question is similar to Councillor Mott's in a way, I think. Have we checked to see whether the endorsement of this plan would clash with any of the policies in the joint local plan or the supplementary planning document? Are we setting up some constraints that hitherto we haven't had? Has that check been done?
So most of the people behind the community forest plan are also heavily embedded within
you have to talk to the darn
apologies,
thing.
yeah. So apologies for turning my back in that. Yeah, most of the people that work on the community forest plan are also working on the joint local plan as well. So this isn't a land use policy. We're talking about several hundred hectares aspirationally of woodland planting, but in the grand scheme of things, that really is just a drop in the ocean in terms of the land coverage we're talking about. And a lot of the planting, the reason that this is a partnership approach and so many authorities are involved is because we are looking at rural areas. So whilst we're looking where possible to create woodlands that are accessible to communities, and we have done that in certain areas, typically when you run a check on a particular site, you would consider the suitability for housing, etc. So we're not really looking to support schemes that would take land out of housing. So in terms of a check, I don't think policy by policy anyone's really run through it, but I think I can fairly confidently say it's not contrary to anything in the joint local plan.
Okay, just before I bring you in, Councillor Viney, Councillor Mott's got a follow-up to Councillor Cheadle's question.
Thank you. Similar to Councillor Cheadle's questions, I know it's saying that it's a non-statutory document, but I'm concerned that by our agreement to this document, it gives tacit support to the land use changes that are being proposed by DEFRA by default. So I'm kind of wavering, if you like. I fully support the principle and the idea behind it. However, I would be struggling if by agreeing to this document and plan, we are effectively supporting the proposal to reduce the land use for agriculture by 19%.
My feeling on it, Councillor Mott, is that, you know, we've got to take it at face value, and the aim of this forest is not to do land use change. That's not what it's about. I accept what you're saying. We don't know what other agendas are out there from that point of view. I think that within the environment we have within West Devon, we are extremely fortunate. I think there are areas of land that we can use and develop which would not impact on agriculture. I know myself at Buckland Abbey, for instance, the way they've done the planting there, it's on the fringes of the field or certain areas of that. So I think there's got to be a happy medium. However, I don't disagree. It very much depends on what the political agenda is behind that, and we don't know that. But I would say at face value, this is not there to support that agenda. That's my opinion on that one.
Councillor Viney, would you like to come forward and ask your question, please?
Thank you, Chair. Thanks for that. So in support of this recommendation and John Lawton's review of bigger, better, more joined up, and this reinforces this. I'd like to ask, sorry, I don't have my computer, so which method of planting are we looking at? You mentioned natural regen, but in terms of the biodiversity crisis and climate emergency, could we be looking at something more akin to the Miyawaki method? We've had good results in our agroforestry trials with that. In response to Councillor West and Councillor Mott and the question over agricultural land, most of our agricultural land in this area is livestock. Cows are a woodland species and are very, very happy in a woodland pasture situation. Woodland pasture is the holy grail, is really what we should be aiming for in terms of soil health, in terms of woodland as a future fodder crop. And in a country, as Councillor Mott said, we are importing 83% of our biomass in terms of timber. When the floods come, how are we going to build our life raft? Thank you.
I was just going to come into, I suppose, give a bit of a case study. So the community forest has supported Miyawaki-style forests. It's supported agroforestry. Everyone loves a case study. So a project that I'm working on covering 26 hectares on T'other Moors. We've got wood pasture, open woodland, broadleaf woodland, orchards. We're continuing to graze the site with conservation grazing, cattle. We're taking hay cuts. We're taking the wildflower seed. We're sending it off to all sorts of other sites around South Devon. So there's opportunities through the community forest to support all sorts of types of planting, supporting community access, but also continuing to support agriculture, albeit quite often at a lower density in terms of cattle numbers.
Thank you. I'm really going to have to show my ignorance here. What is conservation grazing cattle? We've got conservation cows or something. Oh, I like
exactly
that.
So smaller cattle, and you tend to put them on at a much lower density for shorter time periods.
Yeah, just have a walk around Borough Reservoir, and there's quite a few cattle around there on that sort of grazing, would be my suggestion.
Okay, thank you. Right, so we've had the questions. If we now move into debate, quite a few of you debated with your questions. It was getting near to me telling you off. And there was. So does anyone else have anything they wish to add? Councillor Jury.
Sorry, Chair. Can I very quickly say that I mean, I'm satisfied because of wording that is in the plan that it's not a statutory document and it's not about changing land use. I do welcome this initiative in tying together 7 different partners across the region, and particularly welcome it. It's not, it seems to me, just about climate change and biodiversity, excellent reasons though and benefits though those are, but it does recognise the well-being element. And it also recognises the economic benefits that these proposals bring. So, as lead member for the economy, I'm particularly interested to see that it mentions supporting 1,000 jobs. I don't know if any of those are new jobs, but I hope some of them may be. And that it's looking to into the potential to develop local timber markets that drive employment and opportunity. And on the back of a piece of work that I've been doing about decarbonising the construction industry, I found that particularly welcome as well. So I shall be supporting the proposal.
Thank you very much, Councillor Jury, and thank you for saying about the economy benefits, but also the healthy lifestyle benefits that this offers. I think I've probably read more on the Plymouth weekly newsletter site on this that says of all the, the paths, the cycle trails, the activities for children and things like that, that actually, it is a really good scheme for the wider economy and health and well-being. So, anyone else wish to add anything? No, may I see a vote then, please? All in favour?
That's unanimous. Thank you, Leader.
I think Councillor Mott was waving at you, Mr. White. Yeah. Right. If we can move now to page 83, we now have, here she comes, Ms. Buckle and Mrs. Henstock. Good afternoon, ladies. Councillor Edmonds.
Thank you, Leader. This is the draft revenue and capital outturn position for 2024-25. The report outlines a positive financial position with a surplus of £502,000 being achieved through a combination of effective budget management, proactive cost control and additional income generation. After allocating £400,000 to support the council plan through dedicated delivery plans, a residual surplus of £102,000 remains for 24-25, which has been transferred to the council's unearmarked reserves. Key contributors to the surplus were extra income from Treasury management, renewable energy business rates income, salary savings from staff vacancies, and key cost pressures included an additional spend on temporary accommodation, waste and cleansing service costs, and an increase in bad debt provision. Turning to the council's reserves, these have increased to good levels. Unearmarked reserves increasing to 1.82 million and earmarked reserves increasing to 12.04 million. Total council borrowing reduced in the year from 27.01 million to 26.37 million, with no new borrowing in the year. The council tax collection rate for the year was 98.69%, against a target of 97.75%, which places the council in the top quartile nationally and within the top 5% of all councils. I think that secured us 12th position in the country. The business collection rate was 97.81%, and this should place the council in the second quartile nationally. In addition to the revenue outturn, the report sets out the capital investment delivered during the year, totalling 6.21 million, including significant progress on strategic projects such as the Oakhampton Interchange Transport Hub and a range of housing and regeneration schemes. The 2024-25 financial year has resulted in a healthy surplus, robust reserve levels and successful capital delivery, all of which provide a solid foundation for future financial sustainability and investment aligned with the council plan, and I'd like to thank our finance team for this excellent achievement. Bishop Fleming have commenced the external audit of the accounts, and following the audit, the statement of accounts will be brought back to the Audit and Governance Committee for approval in either October or December 2025. And finally, Chair, members are asked to note the contents of the report and the robust financial position it reflects. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Edmonds. Does anybody have any questions, Councillor Edmonds? Councillor West, please.
Having been fortunate enough to go down to 20 Plymouth Road this morning to look at the new facility there, which I'm sure we'll hear about a little bit later on. No? Oh, okay, fair enough. But I'm just out of interest because we talk about the amount of money that we put into or have to pay on a top up for our emergency accommodation. Has anybody, I'm sorry to put you on the spot, but put any idea around figures of how much money this should save us in terms of that you know, we've got 167 over. How will this impact on that sort of level, if you of extra expenditure? That's the word I'm trying to get out.
I don't know the actual figures that it would save, but in terms of where we were for 24-25, in terms of our base budget, we've got just under 300,000 in there at the moment. We have for 25-26 increased that budget for temporary accommodation by 160,000, and we were 176 overspent in the last financial year. So what we are sure of is that 176,000 is going to come down. Obviously, what we can't predict is future demand. It is a demand-led service. We do, in terms of temporary accommodation, we are able to get some of that money back in terms of subsidy. But yes, those 3 extra units that are about to come on stream for temporary accommodation certainly will bring that down. I will check with our head of housing if we've got any figures around those.
Just out of interest.
We can circulate that to members. Thank you.
Perhaps I can just add to that. We've got number 3 Spring Hill as well, which I think is hopefully now occupied. And of course, we've got the properties that we've bought through the LAF funding. And there's an item on the agenda this afternoon proposing, I think, a further 2. So we are building that stock, which is excellent. But likewise, the demand seems to be also building. But we are doing everything we can to try and provide as much temporary housing as possible. So hopefully that figure will pull that figure down.
Thank you. Thank you.
Buckle,
sorry, Chairman. So I've just had a quick conversation with the Director of Place. Per flat, we are hopeful that it will bring down temporary accommodation costs between 15 and 25,000 per unit. And we've got 3 units at 20 Plymouth Road.
And as Councillor Edmonds saying, with Spring Hill coming online as well, we could be talking £60,000 to £80,000 worth of savings.
That is substantial.
It is.
It just shows the importance of providing this type of accommodation. Absolutely.
That is really good. Thank you.
Councillor Jury.
Thank you, Chair. Excellent result, and congratulations to all concerned. Thank you for a really informative report, as per usual. I'm very pleased to note that we're allocating £400,000 for reinvestment into the council plan through the delivery plans, a further £400,000. We recently had our peer review, or our 1 year on feedback on the peer review, which was fantastic, and well done to all involved in that. One of the strengths that came out of that was our plan and the robustness of our plan, but also that we should, as we have been doing, concentrate on the plan and what we're doing and not start adding things into the plan. Am I right in thinking, therefore, that the £400,000 is an additional pot on which we can draw to do more of the same? Is that the plan that's intended? How we flex those plans is going to be part of the next budget review and the build up to that. Is that correct?
That is correct, Councillor Jury, that we are looking to be able to expand a little bit more on some of the projects that we have already detailed, which will be to the benefit of our residents in West Devon. So thank you for that. Councillor Cheadle.
Thank you, Lena. There was an article in this week's Tavistock Times that West Devon failed to collect £4.6 million worth of council tax. And that was set in context of the country owing more in unpaid council tax than it had previously done, which doesn't sit comfortably with the report in the paper in front of us. I wonder if we can correct the Tavistock Times, if that's appropriate.
Yes, we've been looking into that already, and Mrs. Hotchkiss has written a very good reply to me and to actually the leader of South Hams. So, Mrs. Hotchkiss, would you like to give a brief breakdown of how that figure is accumulated and how we're now dealing with it? But it still keeps us in the top quartile, I will very hurriedly say.
Thank you, Leader. So that arrears figure relates to all arrears, regardless of financial years. So essentially it is the cumulative position. In terms of the position for 24-25, off the top of my head, that would probably be about 750,000 outstanding. You know, suffice to say that we are trying to recover all outstanding debts. We're playing catch up to some extent because of the impact of COVID and then the cost of living crisis. But hopefully members can be reassured that we are seeking to recover all council tax debt due to us.
So the article in the Tavistock Times was factually correct?
No, the total arrears figure for all financial years is factually 4.7 million. The context is that it wasn't outstanding for 24-25.
I think it would be helpful if someone sort of corrected the record.
Okay, we can ensure that's done. Councillor Edmonds,
Is it worth also pointing out that that is all preceptors? That is not the West Devon share, which perhaps some people may have assumed that with that figure being...
Yeah, so if you bear in mind, if it's all preceptors' share, by the time you come down to our very little, not even 11%, is it? So actually, if you take all of that off, it's quite low figures. But people will always hone in on the big figure because that makes the juicy reading without the facts. So thank you for the question, Councillor Cheadle. So is everybody happy to note the report? Yep, thank you very much. Right, if we can now move to item agenda 10. 9. I did this the other day, didn't I? Yeah, sorry. I did this when we had our briefing. So if we move to page 97, please, and back to Councillor Edmonds. I'm really sorry. I'll get with it in a minute.
There's two people who've given heart attacks in the space of about 10 seconds.
Right. This report sets out the performance management report on our council delivery plan and where we are looking at for this year, although, as we say, it's fairly early in the year and good progress is still being made. And the report is set out at Appendix A for the actual management report. Mr. Powell, are you here to add anything else?
I'm here, Leader, to answer any questions rather than add anything, so I think you've summarised the report.
I was going to say that was a very brief summary because it's a very short report, pithy and to the point, just as I like them. So does anybody have any questions, please? You bring you to the table and nobody asks a question. Scared, yeah. Right, okay then. Sorry, I've nearly wasted your afternoon, Mr. Powell. I'm happy to propose recommendations as set out on the screen. May I have a seconder, please? Thank you very much, Councillor Renders. Any discussion, anyone? No, let's move to a vote.
That's unanimous for the recommendations. Thank you, Leader.
May now run away, Mr. Powell. That was really short and sweet, wasn't it? Right. Okay then, everyone. We'll now go to item 10 on page 117 of our agenda papers. Councillor Renders.
Thank you, Leader. Yes, it is me now. I'm totally unprepared because you threw me right out of my stride. The paper you have before you is one that I'm, again, very pleased to introduce. A small paper. It's a positive paper. And it follows on really from our successful participation in the first 3 rounds of the local authority housing fund, which we've proved good at. We've purchased wisely. There was an additional amount of funding available, which we were invited to apply for. We were successful in that additional funding, and that is really the basis of the paper here before you today, along with the fact that there might be or we're asking for an expression of interest in the 4th tranche of fund that might be available later on. So that's it in a nutshell. We've got Mrs. Bake here, and I'll leave it open to any questions.
Councillor Jury.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Renders. I know the LAF properties are predetermined for use of particular groups in a hierarchy. So starting with the Afghan refugee resettlement and Ukrainian refugee resettlement, and then if that's not taken up, moving on to homelessness and those with a local housing need. Are you able to say how many of the houses we've got at the moment fall into those categories? In other words, I suppose what I'm really driving at, one of our objectives was to gladly accept the money on the basis that it would help to start build our housing stock so that we could satisfy a local homelessness need. Has any of that yet come to fruition? I don't think I particularly need numbers, but...
So currently we have 4 Afghan families in some properties for resettlement, and the rest are for ordinary temporary accommodation. There's a sort of quota where we had 3 temporary accommodation for every one. Two temporary accommodation for every 1 resettlement, and we are sale agreed on the 3 properties that we've already are in LAF 3, the original LAF 3 round. We are sale agreed on 3 of those properties. We're just going through all the conveyancing now. But yeah, we have been able to use them for temporary accommodation. They're not the original people that went into those, so we're seeing some real churn in those properties as well. And the families that we have in our Afghan resettlement are also approaching ready to move on, so we will be looking to resettle those again in more permanent accommodation.
Thank you. So the strategy seems to be very successful and working, and it's benefited a range of different families from within the borough already. So, and presumably saved us a bit of money in terms of temporary housing costs. Well, so full marks to everybody on that front. The strategy, as I say, seems to be working.
Councillor Edmonds, please.
Thank you, Leader. It says that, where was it, 2.6, it talks about 2 properties, hopefully, in the north of the borough. one of which must be a new build. Is that a slight change in strategy there, or do I detect? And if so, what's the thinking behind that?
The need for one new build was within the kind of guidance for the LAF. We have bought new build apart from the last 3 that we've purchased, which it seemed more cost effective. We wanted a larger property. We've just purchased we're in the process of purchasing a 4-bed that we are hoping to use for care leavers accommodation. So yeah, the need to buy new build is always been sort of part of the process, but I think they're revisiting that now again.
It's interesting, we've got an opportunity and we are purchasing, older property. And going back to Plymouth Road, which I've seen this morning, which is fantastic, it offers so much, that building offers so much scope. We've got 3 properties there now. Does buying an older property offer that scope to convert to perhaps smaller units? Because I think there is a lot of demand for 1-bedroom properties in particular. Does it kind of open up that opportunity for this tranche of funds?
The LAF is very time bound, so we have only until the 31st of March 2026. So actually, when you think about the process for Plymouth Road, going through the planning application, organising all the kind of remedial work and the challenges around the bats, probably not for this funding, but I think that definitely we should be considering what we might be able to do around 1-bed need. And the 4-bedroom house that I talked about, that's going to be that opportunity for people to live in a shared arrangement. More of that will be really useful.
Just expanding on our model, I think North Devon and I think Torbay is starting to look at buying larger properties, particularly older hotels, and repurposing them for temporary accommodation. And I know North Devon has been quite successful at it. And I was hearing the other day that Torbay are starting to do it now as well, with some of their properties using the funding and putting in extra funding. So the only place I can think of is Brandeis Park. That was always an ideal place in Oakhampton for those sort of properties, because then we can give somebody a safe roof over their head while they're needing temporary accommodation. And it's, as we all know now, that it's one bedroom properties that we're so desperate for. So I think it's just getting wiser with the money and being able to utilise it to, the very last penny of the best way that we can help the most people in need. So that is good. Councillor West, your finger looks near to the button.
Yeah, more comment than question, but I think I hope Councillor Leach isn't on the line, because of course this is what he was talking about prior to my time in the council in terms of some of the existing properties in Oakhampton and how they might be able to be brought in for that sort of thing. I do welcome it, as Chris said, because we know in terms of where we are with the housing market at the moment, the private sector do not want to build one single bedroom dwellings because it's not cost effective for them. And through this scheme, if we can begin to provide that, then we are addressing a big issue for housing in this area. So I'm really welcome it, and well done to the whole team, A, engaging with it, and B, getting the funding through. And that's so well done. Seriously, thank you.
It's very, very positive, I think it is. And we touched on it earlier on. It's not just providing for the public and people that are in need, we wouldn't want to be in the position that they're in, but also from the council's point of view and for the ratepayers' point of view, there's the savings that we bring about, because we touched on it before, if you're not putting people in temporary accommodation, the figures are astronomical, aren't they? So it's a win-win all the way around.
Well, there is the financial aspect, always important, but it's also better for those people who find themselves in the position that they might be perhaps even in the same community, the children may be able to continue in the same school, rather than being uprooted and dispatched to somewhere where there is some accommodation. So I think it's a win-win situation, and if keep the focus.
Not in hotel rooms, and
it's not a good environment. So the schemes have been really well managed and invested. We got a really good track record. So I congratulate the team on that performance.
I think we also need to add, was stressed a lot at the LGA conference last week, that there are 165,000 children in temporary accommodation in England and Wales, which is a huge amount of children. You'll be delighted to know that I nearly told the press that for West Devon. Which, a bit embarrassing, wasn't it? Is. Before we just get to the end of this bit, I would just like to thank Mrs. Blake and Dan this morning for showing us round Plymouth Road. A few of us went down there, and they are really, really lovely flats, apartments, whatever we want to call them. They really are, and they're so in the centre of town. You don't need any transport. You can be town doctor's hospital within minutes. They really are in such a great location, and I wish we had more properties that we owned ourselves that we could do this type of work on. So thank you very much, Mrs. Blake. And
a final comment, if I may, can I also say I'm really pleased to see that we can see directly where that second homes council tax is going and how it is supporting our agenda as a council. So I'm really pleased to see that in there, that £80,000 or so in terms of the future.
You'll be delighted to know that the leader did her interview with Spotlight this morning on exactly that subject, and I think Mrs. Blake did the one for the LAF funding, which is causing a little confusion at times, but we've got there in the end, and hopefully it's been a good day for West Devon with getting some publicity on Spotlight, Devon X or X Radio, whatever they're called. Alison will tell. Pardon? Radio X and the Tavistock Times also came along. So a good publicity day for West Devon for doing a really good job. So you better propose, because we're done without you.
Okay, you don't need me. The proposals as on the screen. I will propose.
I'm happy to second that. Does anybody wish to have any debate? Although we've all pretty much said what we'd like to. Would anybody actually like to do it in the right part of the agenda? No? Okay. We'll have a show of hands then, please. All those in favour?
That's unanimous, the 4 recommendations, thank you, Leader.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mrs. Blake. Thank you. Right, if we can move to page 123, please, for item 11 and the procurement strategy. Councillor Edmonds, it's you.
It is indeed. Thank you, Leader. Hello, Rosie. This report presents a draft procurement strategy which sets out the principles that the Council will apply in purchasing goods and services. It will be considered alongside the contract procedure rules. Developing a new fit-for-purpose strategy is a key commitment within the Council delivery plan and directly addresses recent audit findings which identified the absence of an up-to-date strategy as a significant risk to the Council. The draft strategy outlines 4 key objectives that establish a clear approach to promoting sustainable, transparent and value-for-money procurement practices, while also enhancing the Council's commitment to greater engagement with local suppliers and SMEs. The strategy aligns with the Council's corporate strategy, particularly under the priority of economy and jobs. It also supports the climate and biodiversity priority by incorporating sustainability and social value considerations into the tendering process. An action plan is included in the strategy outlining how these objectives will be achieved, along with KPIs to monitor performance. The Hub Committee is asked to consider the strategy and recommend its adoption by Council. Thank you.
Thank you. And it's lovely to see you, Rosie. We haven't seen you for a long time. Rosie, or Rosanna as she's formally, is the Corporate Procurement Officer, but she's based at Teignbridge District Council because there's a few of us that work on this together. So welcome, Rosie. Somebody is going to ask a question, so there we go.
I'm not going to ask a question. I'm going to wait till debate. Thank you.
Councillor Elliott, please.
Okay, so I'm going to do a tiny bit of debatey thing, and then I'm going to ask a proper question, okay? So firstly, I really welcome that we've got a very clear strategy, and it needs a little bit of adjustment, as the recommendation suggests, but I think we've absolutely got the principles right, so thank you very much for that. I wanted to ask a question about, in Appendix A on page 12 of the appendix, and it's page 142 of the PDF, if you're digital. So, as we'd expect, we've got just under 50% of our spend is in the southwest. But then the next highest figure, Yorkshire and the Humber, is also huge at 35%. And I'm assuming that that's because we buy some major service from an organisation that is based in that area. So I think it's really, so it would be lovely to have that clarified. But then in future, if we're trying as a sort of target to improve how much we're spending in the southwest and West Devon, I'd suggest having some other table where we take out some of the massive ongoing expenditure that we really have no control over because there's only a few suppliers and there isn't one in the southwest. Do you see what I mean? So that we can really see how we're improving over time. Otherwise, it's just going to get dwarfed by so much money being spent. I assume it's an IT system or some such.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense, and we can certainly look into removing any ongoing costs that aren't in Devon from our analysis. I had a meeting with Councillor Edmonds yesterday, and we talked about the top 10 spend as well. So we had a look together. Our top 10 are FCC, and we've got a lot of temporary accommodation costs as well, but hopefully because we've built Plymouth Road and we've got Spring Hill, I'm hoping that hopefully those temporary accommodation costs will come down. Yes, but that does make perfect sense.
Councillor West, please.
Thank you, Rosie. We're talking about our climate change and reducing the environmental impact. Could you unpack that a little bit, please? When you talk about focusing on reducing environmental impact, including Scope 3 emissions, that's Objective 1, promote sustainability and social value.
Could you repeat that last?
So basically, I'm just wondering if you could unpack in terms of what are we looking at in this particular area around, reducing environmental impact and our Scope 3 emissions as a result of procurement, how that works.
Yeah, so if it's proportional to the contract, we will ask suppliers for their sustainability accounts, their carbon accounting. However, it does need to be proportional to the contract. So if we've got a low value contract that a local SME supplier can fulfill, they may not have that information. Therefore, we wouldn't ask for the carbon accounting. But if it's a very high risk, high profile, high value contract, then by all means we will be asking for that carbon accounting and asking them about their sustainability through any social value questions we ask in the tender documents as well.
Talking of tendering, how important is that factor within the tendering process in terms of if we've got two of a similar amount, are we saying we're going to give extra weighting to the one that has better sustainability credentials, for instance?
Our contract procedure rules don't specifically state that. It's dependent on what weighting we have given to the sustainability element. So if we have given, say, 20% to the sustainability element
and they're both similar on price and both similar on their quality aspects, then in that case, the sustainability element would tip it over to the winning supplier.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? No? Good. Right. You'd like to speak?
No.
Oh, he's waiting. He's waiting with bated breath. Right. Well, we have to allow Councillor Edmonds to do his recommendations first.
Thank you, Leader. I move the recommendations. You will notice that recommendation 2 has got a suggested amendment. Thank you, Darrow. That is, and this is a bit of an eyesight test, I think it says, and grants delegated, says we turn it around, and grants delegated authority to the Director for Strategy and Governance to make any necessary minor amendments in consultation with the lead Hub committee member.
You have passed your eye test, Councillor Edmonds.
I don't need to go to Specsavers.
No, not this week. Other opticians are available.
Yes. Yeah.
We're in procurement here, you know, you've got to be
well, that's
cognizant of the fact there's others.
Social value.
Yeah.
I'm into that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. I'm happy to second that. Councillor Moody, now is your moment.
I just wanted to say I think this is a brilliant report, and thank you very much for all the hard work you both have put into this. It's really helpful, and I'm sure Councillor Jory will echo my thoughts, particularly based on the focusing of the increasing engagement with local companies and small to medium companies as well. I think that's a really good thing for West Devon and our local economy. I think it's brilliant. So was that worthwhile waiting?
That's worthwhile. We'll just check with the Chief Exec. Yeah, he agrees as well. So there you go, Councillor Moody. You've been worth waiting for today. Right. Is there any other debate? No. Before we finish, thank you very, very much for coming over, Rosie. It's lovely to see you. Yeah. Oh.
Leader, I was just going to say that in terms of the strategy itself, the amendments that are needed relate to the table in respect of the tendering threshold. There's a suggestion that tenders are required between 100,000 and the procurement threshold. That is not the case, so that table needs to be corrected. I also have suggested that following a webinar that I attended early last week, that we include reference to the procurement objectives or the principles in the Procurement Act. It's regarded as being good practice, and I also think that we need to refer to one of those specifically because it's not at the moment, and that's relating to integrity. The principles that are aimed at supporting small and medium enterprises are well and truly picked up, and most of the other principles are reflected in the strategy, but there's just a couple of tweaks to be made. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you very much, Mr. Fairbairn. Right, all those in favour?
That's unanimous as per the screens. Thank you, Leader.
Oh, she's a happy girl now. Thank you very much, Rosie. See you again. Right, if we can move now to the Household Support Fund, item 12, pages 145. And Mrs. Hotchkiss is going to join us. Councillor Elliott.
Thank you, Leader. I'm really delighted to have the opportunity to present this paper because I think this is a really important part of what we do as a council, because it's a way of supporting those who are most vulnerable across West Devon, who have the least resources. And I'd like to start by thanking Mrs. Hotchkiss and her team for the detailed work that they've done, building on previous experience of administering the Household Support Fund. It's a very detailed paper, so I don't propose to go through it in huge detail, but I want to just highlight a few sort of key aspects of it. So firstly, you'll be aware that this is an ongoing for many years now. We've had the Household Support Fund. This comes down from central government to Devon County Council. And we only heard very recently, after the meeting of the 25th of June of Devon County Council, how much money we would be allocated. And we're allocated money as a borough based on the amount of universal credit that we're given out. So it's a sort of proportionality. Now this year we've got less money than we've had in previous years. We've been getting sort of around 150,000 for 6 months, and this time we've been awarded 196,000 for 12 months. So there's a reduction in the total amount. Part of that is because Devon County Council have chosen to make sure that they're directly allocating more money, and one of the things they're doing is giving a little bit more money in terms of free school meals. Vouchers for children who are on free school meals and then need vouchers and need money during the summer holidays. So that just gives a little bit of context and highlights the problem of child poverty. So some of the money is already going to those families in greatest need. But what we're trying to do in this report and in the plan here is to make sure that we're meeting need in 3 different ways. So first, we've identified groups that are in particular need. So there's a continuation of our corporate parental responsibility for care leavers. So that's the sort of top ticket where we're going to be giving £500 to all care leavers for the first 6 months and then a further £500 for the second 6 months. At the moment, we've got 13 care leavers on the books, but we're estimating that might go up to 20. So you can see that's 20,000 over the whole year, the whole 12 months. So then there are a couple of other groups that we've identified that are of particular need this year. So one is those on council tax reduction who are carers. So that's another group. And also families with 3 or more children who are part of our council tax reduction scheme. So I feel here that we're really making the most of the sort of intelligence we have on the ground of the people that are most in need. And those of you with good memories will realise that one group we're not giving to this year is the pensioners just above the pensions, I've forgotten the name of the benefit now, but pension credit, thank you. Very good. So that's really in response to the changing landscape, because clearly there's going to be more winter fuel allowance given out. So that's why we haven't particularly targeted pensioners this time. So that's the first tranche where we're giving out money directly. The second is supporting groups that are already working in the community. And so there are 3 here. One is we've all heard presentations by the Tamar Community Energy. So they're doing work to support people to improve the insulation of their homes, make sure they're not having to spend so much money on heating. So we're going to be giving 15,000 to them over the whole 12 months. There's also a group called Homemaker that are working directly with families that are struggling, and we're giving £5,000 to them, and that's being matched with £5,000 from South Hams, so that enables them to do some very direct work. And also the Armed Forces charity SSAFA, so we're giving £10,000 to them. So we've got our targeted, then we've got our community groups, and finally that leaves about 57,000 that we'll be able to give out in response to very specific requests from households that are really struggling, and that will be mainly where they're struggling with food costs and with sort of household costs, not so much housing, but if a white good has broken down or something and they really need that support. So what we've tried to do is make sure that we're meeting needs in a number of different ways, and we're making the very most of the information we've got at the borough level. And so I hope you'll accept those recommendations. And just to note, the total amount we've got for the whole year this time is 196, and some of that is needed to be used for administration costs, so that comes to 175,000 that we'll actually be giving out. And this may be the last year that we have the money in this form. So we're going to need to think strategically about moving forward and how the government is going to be allocating funding to different areas of the country, and how we make sure that the very most vulnerable in West Devon really do have their needs met. And the final recommendation is just to note the other work that's being done to support people through things like the council tax reduction scheme. So just to remember that this isn't the only way that we're supporting people. So I hope that that provides a reasonable overview. There's a lot in the paper, so please do feel free to ask questions, and I'm sure Jenny will be happy to answer questions as well. Thanks.
Right. Does anybody have any questions? Has anyone on the hub got any questions? Councillor Edmonds, please. Microphone, please. It pinged it off.
Sorry. Yeah, just a question around the care leavers figure of 150, I think it is. They do an incredible role. How did we arrive at that figure? And
Edmonds, the care leavers are getting £500.
sorry, carers. Sorry, carers, 150. What was the sort of thinking behind that figure compared, say, with the care leavers at 500, recognising the fantastic work carers do?
I think it's around hard choices, I think, in a nutshell, isn't it? We'd obviously like to give as much support to people as possible. I think probably the higher payments to care leavers, or the proposed higher payments to care leavers, are around just building on the work that the council has done in terms of its corporate parenting responsibilities, and just continuing that support. But you know, I take the point. We would like to support everybody to the extent that we can, but unfortunately we've had to, you know, model based on the budget that has been available to us.
Leader, if I can just add to that. So I think, as Mrs. Hodgkiss has said, it is about making hard choices. With the care leavers, there's very few of them, so we can actually afford to be relatively generous corporate parents, and that's in line with what they've been given in the past. So if we gave less than that, they would be getting a reduction. And the other thing to bear in mind is that there's nothing to stop the carers from also applying for a further grant. So, you know, it's not just saying this is all you can get. If they needed more than that, there's other places for them to, but it's making sure that we're targeting them directly. But I agree with you. If we'd had more money from county, the original draft of this had us giving more money to that group.
Councillor Mrs. Johnson, please.
Thank you, Leader. Can you confirm that the money that's being allocated to SAFA will be specifically for people living in West Devon?
We can certainly look to make sure that that happens, yes.
Thank you, because I think that's important. It shouldn't just go in a general pool to be allocated elsewhere.
Thank you for that. That's a very good point, well raised. Before we know, if you would like to put forward your recommendations, Councillor Elliott.
Thank you. So I'd like to make all 9 recommendations. I hope people won't mind if I don't read them all out, but I think we've had a reasonable summary of them. So hopefully people are content to read them on the screen. Thank you.
Right. I'm happy to second that, but I have to say, to me, this report is almost one of the reasons why a lot of us become councillors, that we are making a difference to families and their lives, etc. And it is really important that we can do that. As you know, the Chief Exec and I take really seriously our role as corporate parents. So it's good that we are able to help vulnerable young people, but also all people in Devon who need help. Well, in West Devon, you know, where we can, that we are. I think giving to the 3 organisations is also really important. They do a lot of work for us, and that we can support them in doing some of that work is, adds to the contribution to our residents for the assistance by putting them in touch with Homemaker and things like that. And they can also look at other charities at Homemaker to assist if you've had, you've been a career in an organisation or whatever, and quite a lot of organisations have a pension or a distribution pot that can help you if, that person was, I don't know, had a career in, now I'm getting all my words muddled, basically in some professions, and you've come on hard times, there are pots of money that you can apply for, but it's organisations like Homemaker that are more aware of them than we are. So I think it's really good that we can support them. I am, as I say, delighted that we can do this, and I'm very happy to support this report. Would anyone else? Oh, I've got a few hands. Councillor Moody, then Councillor West, please.
Just yet again, a very good report, Jane, and I think it shows how hard you've worked with officers to do the right thing by people. You've got a limited budget, you've got to work within that, you've thought long and hard, and you've prioritised people, and also there is an overflow. There's a budget where it's discretionary as well. So we've spread what we've got, the limited budget we've got, very wisely, and I think it's a very good report, and I echo the leaders' views that this is why we join councils, is to help people as much as we can, and I think it's brilliant. Thank you.
Councillor West, please.
Yes, I mean, the work that's gone into this, just the recommendations alone, wording those, is amazing to get the nuances within that. But I am really, really concerned that Devon is in this situation. It is seen as an affluent area, but we know there are areas of deprivation. If we talk around rural deprivation, it is there. Then we've got an economy relied on tourism, which are often part-time, low-paid jobs. Then we've got the impact of government policy on farming, which we briefly touched on how that's changing. And I'm really pleased we've been able to support these people, but I'm just concerned that generally we as an area, both in the last 20 years, seem to have been, oh, well, it's relatively affluent, they're all right there, they don't necessarily need the funding. And I know from my own experience as a head teacher in Plymouth, an area of huge deprivation, with all the various codes and that sort of thing, sometimes that weighting does tend to support urban areas, which of course we haven't got. And it really, really frustrates me. We're talking about charities supporting people at the end of the day who are volunteers. And for me, it really, really makes me quite upset to think that we're in one of the richest countries in the world, and yet we are still in a situation whereby, inevitably people fall cracks and all that sort of thing. But if we think about food banks and the support and that for that, it really, really upsets me. And I agree that the best thing about this role sometimes is how we can support our community in hopefully helping them not only survive, but actually thrive. I think that's an important part of the role we do. So thank you for the report and thank you for the efforts on that. Thank you.
We're ready to go to a vote then, please. Okay, all those in favour, please show.
That's unanimous for the 9 recommendations. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you, Mrs. Hotchkiss. I think you're allowed to run away now, aren't you? Good.
I'll take James with me.
Yes. James, have we been interesting or were you just sent back by Mum? Quite good. That's a compliment.
We'll take that.
Yeah, we'll take that. No. Yeah, we can have a tick in the book. Thank you, James. Right, if we can move to page 161 and the strategic planning update. I'm not sure which of the guys at the back are coming forward. I can see Phil and Mr. Brooke. So, Councillor Mott, over to you.
Thank you, Chair. Members have been aware of the need for us to progress with a new local plan following the update to the National Planning Policy Framework, despite the local government restructuring, removing the middle tier of representation. This is an important opportunity for us to put forward residents' views on how the area could change in the future. It will also allow us to identify any constraints which in turn could reduce our housing requirement. Terms of reference will be agreed, and I would ask, please, the members note the slight amendment to recommendation 1 as shown on the board. That brings it in line then with the report and the table on page 168. As I said, terms of reference for the agreed groups and the board will be sorted following the decision here today and at South Hams on the 17th of July. You will also note that table 3.10 or point 3.10 rather gives the risks and opportunities to the recommendations, and I hope you feel able to support this.
Anyone have any questions, please? Mr. Baker, would you like to give any further update, or has Councillor Mott carried off what you would have said?
As always, Councillor Mott has very ably and effectively summarised the situation in the report for me. Thank you, Leader.
Sorry, Phil, we're taking the mic. Right, now moving to questions. Does anyone have any questions, please? Ollie, you've got away with that as well. Oh, Councillor West, thank you.
Sorry, I'm awake today. No, I'm just intrigued and frustrated by us falling below the 5-year supply level. And I think one of the planning applications we had in recently was actually saying about the fact that they were trying to put in around the changes and what is the balance within the planning and that. And already it seems to be coming into some applications around this. So already it's been jumped on. So for me, that is a great concern. The timescale for this is how long? Councillor Mott, can I remember?
30 months once we start the process.
13 months once we start. So there's 30 months. 30 months. Okay. So we're in that situation where we are extremely vulnerable, aren't we, from speculative, applications when it comes down to it.
As is the rest of the country.
Scary. I know. Yeah. Scary. Thank you.
I think we still have a 5-year land supply if we don't take into consideration the new regulations.
That's just about correct. I think we might have just slipped underneath the 5, but yes. Right. Any other questions? No? Right. Would you like to put forward your recommendations, please, Councillor Moore?
Happy to put forward the recommendations as shown on the screen and page 161 of the paper copy of the agenda, 165 if you are digital.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to second. Would anybody like to have a debate? Not about housing numbers.
No, not housing numbers, sorry. I would just like to say that within the paper, and thank you for the paper, the part of the issue we've got, the elephant in the room for me is social housing as opposed to affordable housing. And we note early on in the report, it talks about affordable housing, appropriate levels, that sort of thing. But I'm pleased to see we're taking the opportunity to talk about social housing as well later on in the report, and we will bring that into the plan. So for me, that's important, and I do welcome that. There's recognition of that.
Thank you, Councillor West. Any other comments from anyone? We'll move to a vote. All those in favour, please show.
That's unanimous as the recommendation on the screen. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you, Mr. Brooke. Thank you, Phil. We've been admiring your shirt.
I've had a lot of really distracting messages when I'm trying to concentrate on my report, but thank you, Leader.
Right, if we move to item 14 now, please. And I haven't brought my report in with me. Thank you very much. I've read that. Right, so. Right. If we can welcome Belle and a stranger to our midst, Mr. Pat Weimer, how lovely to see you. Oh my God, is that permanently?
I don't know who's more shocked by that statement, Mr. Weimer or the rest of the team.
It is lovely to see you, though, Pat.
Hopefully, you'll be temporary while Mrs. Houselander is away.
Yes. Good to see you back.
Thank you.
I was waiting for you to suggest that I could proceed, Leader.
You may proceed, Councillor Mott.
Thank you, members. So this is on a supplementary report separate to your main agenda. So following a huge amount of work from officers in consultation with residents and other interested parties, including the Tavistock Town Council, I'm pleased to bring forward the Tavistock Conservation Area Appraisal and Management Plan, which will be a supplementary document to be read in conjunction with all of our other policies for applications coming forward in the area. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. I haven't asked the officers if they would like to add anything yet. No? Clearly not Councillor Moody. He's not terrified.
Leader, we don't have anything specific to add, but we'll happily answer questions.
Councillor Moody.
Thank you, Chair. Leader, could I just ask for a slight amendment to the acronym? Put a T in front of it, please. The TCAAMP. In all the years I've been a councillor, it was always the Tavistock Conservation Area, the T-Camp, and the TCAA, I think it was.
It actually isn't. It isn't an acronym within the document itself. It's more that's what we've referred to it in other documents.
Right.
So, like in the documents for this committee, and on the website it will be in full anyway.
That's all right. Thank you.
You happy now? Especially as we have the Oakhampton one to come in. We've had to do a lot of negotiating, Councillor Mott. Don't spoil it now, please. So, right. Are there any other questions? Councillor Mrs. Johnson, are you happy?
I'm very happy with this version. Thank you, Leader, as a town councillor.
That was caveated. Right. I'm delighted with this report, as Belle knows when she attended with Mrs. Houselander, it was complimented very highly. And we've also had comment again from said person. So, you know, it's really good. I said at the meeting that it's almost like a brochure that should be in an estate agent's. It is a brilliant document and one that we can be really suitably proud of. And hopefully it is now an exemplar for the Oakhampton one to follow, that we now have a model. And, you know, I know we've talked about in time to come, you know, whether we do one for some of the other market towns, Chagford and North Taunton, because they've got a lot of historical things. So actually, once we've now got this done, it's easier to put in place. We'll keep you very busy, Belle. If there's no other questions, if you'd like to move your recommendation, not quite all your recommendation now.
Thank you, Leader. I will just like to reiterate that obviously once the Tavistock and Oakhampton plans are completed, we will then cascade that down in line with the settlement hierarchy that we already have established. That's already been agreed. That said, I am more than happy to move the recommendation as on the screen and page 1 of the supplementary agenda. Thank you.
I'm more than happy to second that. Move to debate, or have we done the debate again in advance? We're very adept at that. Right, all those in favour, please. Councillor Jury.
That is unanimous. Thank you, Leader.
Mr. Weimer, I hope your journey to visit us has been worth it this afternoon.
It is always nice to come to West Devon.
Thank you. And that is the agenda, everybody. So thank you very much for your attendance and for a very good, light-hearted meeting to discuss serious things. Thank you very much, everyone.